This story was crafted by our talented Revenge Tempest viewer Emily R. If you trust in your writing skills and imagination, leave a comment below. We'd love to connect with you and explore your creative potential. They said Grandpa left nothing for me. But when the lawyer played his video, no one in that room could speak. My name is Abigail Reed, a 31-year-old accountant from Boston, Massachusetts, where the weight of family expectations has always loomed large. I'd grown up hearing whispers about my grandfather, Henry Reed, a reclusive tycoon who built a shipping empire before vanishing from our lives. My aunts, uncles, and cousins, especially my domineering Aunt Margaret, insisted his will excluded me, painting me as the black sheep for choosing numbers over the family business. That day in the lawyer's office, though, everything changed. It started with a formal letter, delivered by courier to my cramped apartment. The envelope bore the seal of Reed Enterprises, a name I'd avoided since childhood. Inside was a summons to a will reading at a downtown law firm, dated for the following week. My heart sank. I hadn't seen Grandpa in 15 years. Not since he'd accused me of betraying the family by pursuing my own path. Aunt Margaret's voice echoed in my memory. "You're no Reed. He'll leave you nothing." I almost tossed the letter, but curiosity, or perhaps defiance, drove me to attend. The law office was a stark contrast to my modest life, with its marble floors and towering bookshelves. My relatives filled the room, Margaret with her sharp suit, Uncle Thomas with his nervous tic, and my cousin Ethan, who smirked as I entered. The lawyer, a gray-haired man named Mr. Grayson, cleared his throat. "Henry Reed's will is unconventional," he began. "Most assets go to the company, but there's a personal bequest." He paused, eyes scanning us. "For Abigail Reed." Gasps filled the room. Margaret's face twisted. "Impossible," she snapped. She was disowned. Grayson ignored her, sliding a USB drive into a laptop. "Mr. Reed left a video message," he said. The screen flickered to life, revealing Grandpa in his study, his weathered face framed by bookshelves. His voice, gruff yet deliberate, filled the silence. "Abigail, if you're hearing this, I'm gone. They'll tell you I left you nothing, but that's a lie. I've hidden my true legacy for you, proof of their greed. Check the old boathouse on the Cape. The keys with your mother's locket." The room went still, his words hanging like a thunderclap. My mother's locket, a silver piece with a hidden compartment, worn thin from years, on my neck. I touched it instinctively, feeling the weight of his words. Grandpa's eyes seemed to bore into me. "They stole from me, Abigail. From us. You're the only one I trust to set it right." The video cut off, leaving a stunned silence. Margaret broke it, her voice shrill. "This is nonsense. She manipulated him." Uncle Thomas shifted uncomfortably while Ethan's smirk faded. I felt their stares, a mix of anger and fear. Grayson adjusted his glasses. "The will specifies Abigail inherits the boathouse and its contents, contingent on her claiming it within 30 days. The rest remains with Reed Enterprises." Margaret lunged forward. "You can't let her have it. She'll ruin us." Grayson raised a hand. "The terms are binding. Any challenge will trigger a full audit." The threat hung heavy. I knew the family's finances were shaky. Rumors of embezzlement had swirled for years. Grandpa's video suggested he'd uncovered their secrets. I left the office in a daze, the locket warm against my skin. The boathouse on Cape Cod was a relic of my childhood, a weathered structure where Grandpa taught me to sail. I hadn't been back since his rift with the family. That night I opened the locket's compartment, finding a rusted key etched with 47. My pulse quickened. Was this the proof he mentioned? The next morning I drove to the Cape, the coastal air sharp with salt. The boathouse stood alone, its paint peeling, surrounded by dunes. Inside, the air was musty, filled with the scent of old wood and sea. Unit 47, marked on a beam, held a locked chest. The key fit perfectly, revealing stacks of documents, bank statements, emails, and a ledger. My hands trembled as I read. Millions siphoned from Reed Enterprises by Margaret and Thomas, laundered through Ethan's shell companies. Grandpa's notes detailed their betrayal, forged contracts, falsified records. A USB drive sat atop the pile, labeled "Justice." Footsteps crunched outside. I hid the chest as the door creaked open. Ethan stood there, his smile gone. "Abigail, what are you doing here?" he asked, voice tight. "Just visiting," I lied, clutching the drive. He stepped closer. "Grandpa's games end now. Hand it over." I shook my head. "This isn't a game. It's the truth." His eyes narrowed. "You don't know what you're starting." Before he could act, I slipped the drive into my pocket and bolted, the sound of his shout fading as I ran to my car. Back in Boston, I met a friend, Olivia Hayes, a journalist with a knack for exposés. She scanned the documents, her face paling. "This is dynamite," she said. "Margaret and Thomas could face prison. But Ethan, he's the muscle. He'll come for you." I nodded, the weight of Grandpa's trust settling in. The video had ignited a war, one I couldn't back down from. As Olivia prepared to publish, I braced for the fight, knowing the family's betrayal would soon face justice, and my legacy would rise from their ashes. The soft crash of waves against the Cape Cod shore filled the air as I stood outside the boathouse, the letter from Grandpa clutched in my hand. Abigail Reed, once the family outcast, now held the reins of a legacy reclaimed through blood, sweat, and tears. The nonprofit Reed Restitution was thriving, its offices in Boston bustling with lawyers, activists, and survivors of corporate fraud eager to reclaim their rights. The grand opening of the boathouse-turned-community center had drawn a crowd, local fishermen, volunteers, and even a few repentant former employees of Reed Enterprises, marking a new chapter. Margaret's trial was in full swing, her once impenetrable facade crumbling under Grandpa's recordings and the ledger's damning evidence, with a 20-year sentence looming. Thomas faced extradition hearings, his global schemes unraveling as international authorities closed in. Yet the shadow of Ethan lingered, a loose end that gnawed at me, a reminder that justice wasn't fully served until he was brought to account. This was no longer just about survival. It was about delivering complete justice and rebuilding what they'd destroyed brick by brick. Back in Boston, Olivia's newsroom became our war room, a chaotic hub of ringing phones and scattered papers. She'd uncovered a lead. Ethan had fled to a safe house in Providence, using contacts from the family's illicit network to evade capture. The police were stretched thin, their resources diverted by the high-profile arrests of Margaret and Thomas, leaving the hunt to us. I couldn't let him disappear, not after his threats at the warehouse, not after he tried to frame me for Grandpa's fabricated suicide to protect their lies. The weight of that betrayal fueled my resolve. With Olivia's help, I assembled a small but determined team. James Carter, a tech whiz from her journalist contacts with a knack for cracking encrypted systems, and Detective Sarah Mitchell, a retired officer who owed Olivia a favor after a past exposé. Sarah's no-nonsense demeanor and James's quiet brilliance gave me hope. We planned a sting operation, driven by the need to end this chapter with full justice, ensuring Ethan faced the consequences of his actions. The safe house was a dilapidated building on Providence's outskirts, its windows boarded up and its walls sagging under years of neglect. The air carried the faint tang of rust and damp earth as we approached under the cover of night. James hacked into the security cameras, his laptop screen casting a faint glow on his face as he confirmed Ethan inside with 2 guards, hired muscle likely. Sarah mapped an entry point through a side door, her experience guiding us with precision. "We go in quiet," she whispered, her voice steady. "No guns unless they draw first. We want him alive for the courts." I nodded, the USB drive, a duplicate with planted data to lure him, secure in my pocket. My heart pounded as we moved, the locket's weight against my chest a steady reminder of Grandpa's faith in me. This was my fight, my justice, and I wouldn't falter. We breached the back door, moving silently through the shadows. The creak of floorboards underfoot was the only sound until Ethan's voice carried from a back room, barking orders to his men. I signaled James to loop the cameras, giving us a 15-minute window. Inside, Ethan stood over a table littered with cash, forged passports, and a laptop displaying transfer codes, evidence of his escape plan. His guards, broad-shouldered and wary, flanked him. "You," he spat, spotting me as we entered. "You think you've won?" I held up the drive, my voice firm despite the adrenaline. "This says otherwise. Surrender and I'll spare you the full exposure." He laughed, a hollow, bitter sound. "You're naive. I'll bury you deeper than they ever could." His guards lunged, but Sarah and James were ready. Sarah disarmed one with a swift move, pinning him to the ground, while James tackled the other, using a stun device Olivia had procured. Ethan grabbed a gun from the table, aiming at me with a sneer. "Last chance," he growled. I stood my ground, voice steady. "You betrayed Grandpa. You stole his life and tried to destroy mine. This ends now." Before he could fire, police sirens pierced the night. Olivia had tipped them off, her live feed to a local news station ensuring accountability. Ethan's resolve cracked, his hand trembling as he dropped the weapon, raising his hands. Officers stormed in, cuffing him as he glared. "You'll regret this," he muttered. I met his gaze, unflinching. "No, you will." With the legal battles won, I poured my energy into Reed Restitution. The nonprofit expanded, its offices now a beacon of hope, funded by the seized assets of the Reed Empire. I hired Sarah as security director, her expertise ensuring our safety, and James as tech advisor, his skills safeguarding our data. The Boathouse Community Center opened to fanfare, its walls adorned with photos of Grandpa's ships and a plaque reading, "For Justice and Renewal." Local fishermen taught classes, volunteers organized aid drives, and survivors of fraud shared their stories, forging a community from the ashes of betrayal. One afternoon, sorting through the boathouse attic, I found a locked box Grandpa had hidden. The key from the locket opened it, revealing a journal. His entries detailed the family's descent into corruption, his guilt for not stopping it, and his hope in me. "You'll rebuild us," he'd written. Tears fell as I read, the pain of their betrayal transforming into a resolve to honor his vision. I donated the journal to a museum, its pages a public testament to his redemption through me. The center's grand opening drew a crowd. Olivia emceed, Sarah stood guard, and James managed the tech. I spoke, my voice steady. "This is for those who've been wronged, for Grandpa, and for a future built on truth." Applause erupted, a wave of solidarity that washed away the past. Later, alone on the deck, I watched the sunset, the locket glinting in the light. The journey had been brutal, betrayal, fear, and loss, but it ended in Adelet. I'd rebuilt not just a legacy but a life rooted in justice and renewal. A fisherman approached, offering a seashell as a thank you. I smiled, accepting it, knowing this was only the beginning of a new. The hum of Olivia's printer filled her cluttered apartment as she churned out copies of the documents, the evidence of my family's betrayal spreading across her desk. My hands still shook from my encounter with Ethan at the boathouse, the USB drive burning a hole in my pocket. Abigail Reed, the outcast, was now the keeper of a secret that could dismantle the Reed dynasty. Grandpa's voice echoed in my mind, "You're the only one I trust to set it right." And with each page Olivia reviewed, the depth of their greed became clearer. This wasn't just about money. It was about power, control, and the lies they'd built their lives on. The dim light of her desk lamp cast long shadows, mirroring the dark truths unfolding before us, and I felt the weight of a legacy I'd never asked for but couldn't ignore. Olivia, a sharp-witted journalist with a reputation for uncovering corruption, adjusted her glasses as she pored over the ledger. "These transactions trace back 10 years, she said, her voice low and measured as if afraid the walls might overhear. Margaret and Thomas funneled millions into offshore accounts, using Ethan to cover their tracks. Your grandpa caught them red-handed, but they silenced him, probably pressured him into that disowning you story to keep you out of their crosshairs." I clenched my fists, the memory of Grandpa's cold dismissal flooding back. A moment I'd replayed 1,000 times, now revealed as a calculated move to protect me. "Why me, though?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Olivia met my gaze, her eyes steady. "Because you were the one person they couldn't manipulate. You chose your own path, and that made you untouchable to their schemes." The USB drive held more than documents. It contained audio recordings that peeled back the layers of their deceit. We plugged it into her laptop, and Grandpa's voice crackled through, strained but resolute, carrying the weight of a man who knew his time was short. "Margaret, Thomas, if you're listening, know this. I've left the truth with Abigail. She'll expose you. And Ethan, you're no better. Your hands are dirty too." A second recording followed, Margaret's voice cold and calculating as she plotted to forge Grandpa's will, her words laced with a chilling certainty. My stomach churned as the reality sank in. They'd stolen his legacy, erased me from it, and woven a web of lies to protect their empire. This was personal betrayal, A wound that demanded not just exposure but justice. A reckoning that would shake the foundations of the Reed name. Before we could strategize further, my phone buzzed with a blocked number, its vibration cutting through the tense silence. I answered, and Ethan's voice hissed through, sharp and venomous. "You think you can ruin us? Meet me at the warehouse on Pier 9 tonight alone, or I'll make sure you regret it. I've got leverage you can't imagine." The line went dead, leaving a hollow ring in my ear. Olivia's eyes widened, her journalist instincts flaring. "He's desperate. This could be a trap." "Probably is." I nodded, determination hardening in my chest. "Then we turn it against him. I'll go, but you'll be nearby with a recorder. We need his confession on tape." She agreed, her mind already racing with logistics. We planned carefully. Olivia would hide with a live feed to her editor at the Boston Herald, ready to broadcast if things escalated. The stakes were high and every move had to be precise. That night, the warehouse loomed dark against the Boston skyline, its rusted doors creaking like a warning as I entered. The air smelled of salt and decay, a stark contrast to the sterile office where Grandpa's video had played, and my footsteps echoed on the concrete floor, each one a step deeper into the unknown. Ethan emerged from the shadows, flanked by two burly men whose faces were set in grim determination. "Give me the drive," he demanded, his smirk replaced by a snarl that revealed the panic beneath. "Or what?" I challenged, standing my ground, my fingers brushing the locket for strength. He stepped closer, his breath hot and ragged. "Or I'll frame you for Grandpa's suicide. We've got the evidence planted. Photos, a forged note. You'll rot before you can fight it." My blood ran cold. They'd go that far, crafting a narrative to bury me alongside their sins. I stalled, buying time as Olivia's plan unfolded. "You'll need more than threats to stop this," I said, clutching the locket tighter, its edges digging into my palm. Ethan lunged, his hand reaching for my pocket, but a shout stopped him. Olivia's voice crackling over a hidden speaker. "Back off, Ethan. We're live." The feed had started, her editor patching it to the news station, the red light of a camera blinking from her concealed position. Ethan froze, his men hesitating as the reality of exposure sank in. I pulled the drive from my pocket, holding it up like a shield. "This ends now. The truth's out and you can't hide." His face contorted with rage, but he couldn't act with the world watching. Sirens wailed in the distance. Police, alerted by Olivia's team, closing in to seal his fate. The next morning, the story broke with a force that shook the city. Headlines screamed Reed family corruption exposed, with audio clips of Ethan's threats and Margaret's plotting flooding the media, alongside the damning documents. Margaret and Thomas were arrested at their estate, their denials drowned by the tidal wave of evidence as cameras captured their stunned expressions. Ethan vanished in the chaos, but warrants were issued, his face plastered on every news channel. I stood outside the courthouse, the locket warm against my chest as Grandpa's name was cleared, his reputation lifted from the mud they dragged it through. Olivia hugged me, her pride evident in her tight grip. "You did it, Abigail," she said. But the victory felt bittersweet. My family was shattered, the illusion of belonging I'd clung to now a distant memory, replaced by the stark reality of their treachery. With the company seized by authorities for restitution, I used Grandpa's boathouse inheritance to start Reed Restitution, a non-profit dedicated to aiding victims of corporate fraud. The chest's contents, cash, stocks, and the documents, funded it, a final act of Grandpa's trust in me to turn his pain into purpose. Margaret's trial loomed, promising justice as prosecutors prepared their case. While Thomas faced extradition, his international dealings under scrutiny by multiple governments. Ethan's whereabouts remained unknown, a ghost in the wind, but I knew he'd resurface. His pride wouldn't let him stay hidden long. At the boathouse, I found a letter Grandpa had hidden beneath a loose floorboard. "You've rebuilt us, Abigail. Live well." Tears fell as I read, the pain of betrayal giving way to a new beginning, rooted in adalet and renewal. The letter also hinted at a hidden safe, its location cryptic, sparking a flicker of curiosity about what else Grandpa might have left behind to secure my future and protect me from any lingering threats. As I sat by the boathouse window, the letter in hand, I reflected on the journey. The confrontation with Ethan had been a turning point, not just for justice but for my own strength. Olivia's support had been a lifeline, her courage mirroring Grandpa's faith in me. The nonprofit's first meeting was scheduled for next week, a chance to channel this pain into something lasting. I traced the locket's engravings, wondering if the safe held more than money, perhaps a final message or a tool to ensure Ethan's eventual capture. The sea outside roared, a reminder of the battles fought and the peace yet to come, as I prepared to face whatever lay ahead with the resolve Grandpa had instilled in me.